Vibez, and we are live here. Today we're in Philadelphia, live here at the Dandelion, right here on 18th and Samson. So we're gonna broadcast live here today. But we have our special guest, and I'm super duper excited. But before I do that, let me bring in my girl because I'm not alone here. I'm here with my girl.
Hi, everybody.
So we are here. We're in downtown Philly. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous out. It's a ton of people out today. So we're just going to rock and roll through the show while sampling some great drinks and cuisine from the lovely Dandelion spot right here on 18th and Samson. So we're going to get rock and rolling into our show. Why? Because we are doing something that we've never done before. We're going to do a behind the vibes kind of recap with one of our guests. So earlier this year, we had the pleasure of interviewing Norma. Oh my gosh, such a pleasure. I was so happy when Betty brought her to the show. So we're actually bringing Norma back, aka Redberry. If you guys don't know her line, follow her on Instagram and Facebook. And we're just gonna dive into her and what she's been doing since she's been on the show, and we're gonna recap it.
I love Philly.
You gotta love Philadelphia. Home of the Broad Street Bully. So without further ado, hold on, Bobby, is Giuseppe in the room yet? I don't know if my girl's in the room yet. Because if her and Mac are here, I like them. Hey!
You see, y'all was together, so we decided to do it together too. What's going on?
Oh, look, I love it. We're all twinning today. Y'all together, we're together. We're all together today. I love it. So welcome back, Mac. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, I had a busy couple of weeks, so
Yes,
I'm glad to be back. I love it, y'all vibes. Y'all at a restaurant right now?
We are. We're at the Dandelion down here on 18th and in Samson.
Oh,
so
nice.
we're down having a cocktail. Right, we having a little cocktail. Have a cocktail.
I'm jealous.
And we were just
Definitely jealous.
I can't get no water.
Got that too. And I'm so happy because you're coming back with the neighborhood hope dealers today. And of course, you're simply going to get into how you love it for our fourth segment towards the end of the show. So before we do anything, Mac, we're going to come back with you. But before that, we're going to dive into who is our guest tonight. So without further ado, everyone, please welcome the beautiful, the talented Miss Norma Vibez, Flying Horse, a.k.a. Miss Redberry.
It's so good to be back.
Yes! How have you been?
Oh my gosh. I've been insanely busy. It's been crazy. Since the last time I seen you guys, oh my gosh. I can't even keep up with myself. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yes.
But
that's an amazing
thing. Definitely needing to slow down a bit. So
Well, we're so happy that you take the time out tonight to actually come on the show so we can discuss some more things and what's going on with you. So really quickly, give all of our viewers out there, who is Redberry? And
my name is Norma Baker Flying Horse, and I'm the owner of Redberry Woman, which is actually my native given name. I created a fashion line that influences contemporary fashion with authentic Native American designs and culture. I'm based out of the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation of North Dakota. So I am a web-based fashion line currently, but working on expanding, of course, and it's kind of going without me. But that's pretty much me in a nutshell. So
absolutely love it. All right, well, look, you guys stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to dive into our neighborhood hope dealer with Mac, and then we're going to dive into our interview with Norma. So stay tuned right here on Behind the Vibez. We'll be right back, you guys.
We're international women with real bodies, and we have real issues. Women with Control helps you stay in control. It's the uplifting factor of the no more little, no more jiggle.
No wig, no jiggle.
Style is not about size, it's about attitude.
And welcome back. And shout out to Renee Greenstein. We're actually rocking her dresses right now. So thank you, Renee. I'm absolutely loving this. These are available on QVC.com. So shout out to Renee Greenstein. And we cannot wait to show you our photo shoot from there. It was amazing. So without further ado, let's welcome back our neighborhood home dealer, Matt. What's going on, Matt?
Yo, what's going on? What's going on? How's everything going?
So, okay.
I'm here to, I'm here to bring some, set the tone a little bit right now. But I'm sure everyone heard about the incident that happened in Buffalo this past weekend. Where
actually, no, Betty has not heard about this.
What? Oh, wow.
I had 6 babies this weekend, so I have not turned on a single electronic.
Yeah, so basically, an 18-year-old white supremacist from upstate New York traveled 3 hours to Buffalo to a supermarket and basically did a mass shooting, killing 8 innocent black people. I mean, of course, they're innocent. 11 black individuals, and he actually traveled to this area because it was the closest place that had the largest black community to him. So the reason he actually did this was because he was looking into the great replacement theory and all of that. So I just wanted to hear you guys' thoughts as to, like, what do you think we should be doing right now? Do you think things are going to get better? And just your thoughts, because I know this past Monday I came into work, virtually came into work, just feeling so, like, exhausted. I feel like, it was similar to, like, when the whole incident with George Floyd happened, where it's like, time after time again, you constantly seeing all of this stuff on the media. And it's like, I feel like, me personally, I feel like, things aren't getting better. I think things are starting to get worse, especially with the way the things in the government is, the issues with the government. You have all this stuff about critical race theory. We can't even talk about this stuff in schools. So yeah, just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts about, like, how you guys feel.
Well, the fact that, number one, he's only 18. How was he able to even get this?
Oh, let me mention this. He actually
that's the gun laws. You can be 18.
But he last year he actually got arrested because he said that he wanted to kill himself, as well as he wanted to do a mass shooting last year, and they just let it slide.
And he was specifically targeting African American because when he shot, it was a Caucasian person in the store. He said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry."
I saw that video. I saw that when he stopped the guy behind the counter and he pointed the gun. And then also I saw when he was arrested and how gently.
If it was a black or brown person, I feel like, people can't even sleep at night. People can't even, like, run the red light without being feared for their lives. And this guy, I don't know,
it was just handled so carefully.
He was handled very carefully, and then how they patted him down and how they were just asking him, was he okay? And in the background, this young lady, her mother got shot, and she's screaming, just terror. It was a terrifying shriek that she kept letting out as her mother got shot. And so, in one hand, you have cops patting him down nice and gently, making sure that he's okay, and then you have a victim whose mother has been shot, and there was no knee in the neck, there was no nothing, there was no gun drawn, there was no nothing. He didn't have a marker. They didn't punch that boy, anything. I saw it. He looked completely fine. He looked like he was just more distraught that he couldn't end his life, and now he has to stand trial for the things that he's done. So I just feel like this is another side that we see to America. And like I said, America has its good points, but it also has its very evil and dark points. And I think this is just another dark point in our country that we see again and again and again and again. So go ahead, Betty.
I'd like to interject because the reality that I see is that I don't think it is getting worse. I think that it's an evolved version of history repeating itself. And I think that in this circumstance, in this particular timeline, this time, people are being held accountable. The public is not just turning their heads and pretending they didn't see anything anymore. And there was a time that is exactly what would have happened in this situation. That boy would have been protected by his family and the police, and while I think he should have been treated a little less gently, considering he's killing people. I think that 50 years ago we wouldn't be.
I don't agree with you. I honestly I don't think from the way he was arrested, and now they're trying to say it's mental illness. No, I think that
because of COVID, they said.
Applies, and they're still going to find a way to get him off so that he's not going to be in jail for the rest of his life, or he's not going to face the death penalty. That they'll get him off on something because he's so young and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I honestly I don't expect too much. If something happens where he's prosecuted like to the full extent as what a black person would be prosecuted, or even if they were alive at this point, but for how and what I witnessed in my lifetime in the last couple of years, not really.
But this also raised the.
I think it's getting worse, and I think that now that citizens, I feel like this: if those citizens in New York were armed, and somebody could have took him out, and you can legally carry your firearm, I'm all for people protecting themselves, especially nowadays. You should be able to carry your gun, get your license, and protect yourself. Because if you come at me with a gun, you best believe I got my gun. I'm going to protect myself and my child. You're not going to take me out because of some crazy stuff that you think in your head.
Yeah, he had on. The security guard did shoot at him, but he had on body armor.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah,
it also raises concerns.
That's why he got shot, and that's why he died. Because anytime you see someone with full body armor, you're not supposed to fire at them. You're supposed to take cover and then look for a weak spot, and then that's when you attack. Anyone who's been able to any firearm training knows that. And that's one thing that I will say: this, as much as Black people are feared in society, we are the ones who, the regular citizens, we are the ones who don't own guns. That's the funny part. We don't own a lot of guns. And I would honestly say for all of my middle class African Americans, go get your guns. I'm fully in support of that because I don't think people should live in fear, and you should be able to protect yourself. That is your constitutional right.
But do you feel like it's too easy for people to get guns? Because there's also another mass shooting in Cali, like on Saturday, where a guy went into a church and like the day after, or like on that Sunday, where the guy actually went to a church and shot, I think, 5 people. So I kind of think that it's kind of too easy for people to get guns where they don't even do like a full check.
Trump gave everybody a green light to hate people, you know. Mm-hmm. He made it okay to be a racist bigot. And he actually made it like in vogue to be a racist bigot. And I know that because as soon as that shit hit on the internet and it went on to my Facebook, it was so easy to weed out who I wanted in my life and who I didn't, because they thought it was okay. They thought it was cool.
So, but the problem is that our government thinks it's cool. And the problem is that our system thinks that it's okay. That he was doing God's work, or however they're going to try to classify it, or he had a mental breakdown or whatever. Yeah. At the end of the day, you killed 8 people. You should be held accountable. And that's the problem with this generation right now. None of them, they're not held accountable for their actions. That's why they're allowed to act and do and say things that they want to say. They're not held accountable. They're allowed to do that.
And they so quickly blame mental illness to the point that the people who genuinely suffer with mental illness don't get the help that they need. Yeah. They don't get the recognition. They don't, you know, and everybody wants a magic pill that's just going to cure being a jerk or a sociopath. And the reality is that those people belong in prison or in the electric chair.
So I mean,
and even now that they have any gathering with a lot of African American, they now have armed security there as well. Like a lot of churches have extra security now. Yeah,
it's sad, but
it's just scary. Like you can't even go grocery shopping, and it's like it's kind of crazy that like these people, they was just going, like there was one person that was getting a cake for his son. Like it's like you can't even do simple things like that without being worried. And that's the type of world we're living in now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And see, I grew up in the country, and so I grew up next to all of the whole Black community. So I was in there with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was poor, and eating corn with everybody else. We had our popsicles in the summertime together on the sidewalk, and there was no hate. So a little piece of me is like, I wish that everybody had to experience that everybody had grown up the way that I did and had gone without, so that they had an opportunity to know
what it's like. Yeah.
What it's like to grow up with everybody and to have to be in it with everybody and love everybody, because there's literally no financial room to hate anyone.
Yeah. Like he literally had to drive 3 hours away to a black community. So like he, yeah. So
that right there, that screams in the court of law. That's premeditated murder, and it's a hate crime. So
he actually wrote it 108
charges.
Yeah,
that he should be charged with.
Yeah, that's number one.
So I mean, we just gonna have to wait and see what happens and watch it unfold like reality TV show, like we always do in America, because that's what our country is boiled down to. It's like reality TV show.
Do a similar thing, bring awareness to it the same way that they did with
George Floyd,
with George Floyd, and sign petitions, talk to work with your local government, vote, people. Vote.
Oh yes, happy election day. I hope everybody went out there and rocked their vote and voted, because today was election day around the country. So I hope everybody did that. I know it was election day here in Philadelphia. So all right, Meg. Well, thank you, my lovely hope dealer, and I cannot wait to see what you bring back for our next show. And Meg,
hopefully some positive news.
Yes, because you know what? June is going to be our Men's Appreciation Month. So we're going to be celebrating all men next month for the month of June. No female guests, only men. So y'all are taking over next month.
All right.
All right, Meg. Well, thank you, Meg. And we'll see you later on for How You Lovin', honey.
All right.
Thank you. All right, you guys. We'll be right back with our interview with Miss Norma Baker, a.k.a. Red Berry Woman, when we come back right here on Behind the Vibes.
She walks like she's on a mission. Everybody watching her move. Everybody paying attention. Mama ain't raised no fool. She's on fire. She's on fire. She's on fire. Yeah, 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 yeah. She's on fire.
Oh, I think that's something right. You said lean back. Lean back. Welcome back to Behind the What? The Vibes. And we're getting ready to dive into our interview tonight. So without further ado, please welcome the beautiful, talented Miss Norma Baker. Welcome back, Norma. We are so happy to have you.
Hey.
Welcome back. So tell us, what has been going on since you were on the show? Because you came on the show when we first came back. So you got us, we were still really raw. So what's been happening since then? We're looking more polished now.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's see. I think at the time that I had come on the show last time, I was actually just starting boot camp with Phoenix Fashion Week, and it was a two month process for us to do these competitions and to with myself and 3 other designers, the 4 of us made it, and that kept me so busy. And then of course between that, I'm having like shows and I'm having different events and getting my next launch ready. My gosh, it was just crazy. So, and then I ended up in Phoenix, in April, and I actually won the title of Designer of the Year. So, so it was pretty amazing. I didn't expect. Thank you. I didn't expect to walk away with
Let
that.
me toast you. Congratulations, Designer of the Year, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah, it was tough. I think everyone thought that we were being judged just on the runway, but it was actually 2 months of competition all the way up into the runway, and so we had to complete all these tasks and whatnot, and we got judged by the team, and they also at the same time though help us develop our brand and get things, just kind of structured. It was pretty cool, so it was good.
Thank you. Awesome. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let me ask you this. I know you ended up doing another fashion week, right? How was your fashion week? And Bobby, can you display some of Norma's beautiful garments? Because we have a bunch of your pictures, and I definitely just want you just to tell us about the pieces that they're about to say. But yeah, tell us about your fashion week too.
Yeah, that was actually the fashion week that I was part of, was the Phoenix Fashion Week. It all led up to getting onto the runway. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. It was what I really liked about it was that the competition it wasn't like a sewing competition or nothing like that. It was just, Brian Hill is the executive director for Phoenix Fashion Week, and I tell you what, he's so passionate about upcoming designers, and he wants to really help them get in that direction. And the tools that he's gained and his staff has gained, his team, they're all willing to share that with us as new upcoming people. And for someone who's the age that I am and I don't have any plans to go to school, it was wonderful. Because it was like fast tracking everything, so it was pretty cool. Yeah,
that's amazing. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And you know what? And I love how like you said, it's a different element, because you've done fashion weeks before, but I like how you said it was like a different element. And and I mean, it's always good when you do a show and it kind of teaches you something different or something new. I think
and I really, and I've gotten a lot out of the previous fashion weeks I've been a part of, all these fashion shows. But I tell you what, Phoenix Fashion Week, for me, that was worth all the effort. It was worth being, taking the time and being part of the whole process. Because like I said, these were tools that you can't really get them unless you do go to school. And me, like, school was never something I was, well, one, interested in doing, and two, believe that I could do. And so here we are, I'm like 40 years old and starting this fashion line, and I'm like, hey, I need the quickest way to this here. So, it's wonderful when people want to share their knowledge. And for me, I've always believed that sharing what you've learned and giving that to someone else to help them further, that's a gift. That's a very special gift. So I really truly appreciate, the people who I've met and said, you know what, let me teach you how to do this part of it. Let me teach you the business part of this. Because of course I hate business and numbers. I'm all about just doing the creativity part of it. I'm like, can I just have someone do this for me? Because I'm not.
And you just
I'm
do
not
the
a
part,
numbers person.
yes, and you do your artistic part. Yes.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, hold on just one moment, darling. I'm gonna turn it over to Betty because I know she has some questions for you. I know you do. Hold on one second, though. Here we go.
Hey, Betty.
Hi. So, my questions for you are, of course, a little more personal, because that's how I like it. We talked in length, and you express your outlook on cultural reappropriation, things like that. And I was curious about your point of view on that and how you feel it impacts the cultures that are being reappropriated, and what your experience has been with that, and how you, because I think you kind of combat against it. You would think that having a line like that could be more mainstreamed would make that, but I know, and that when it comes to the the official, like the very real, very traditional garments, you don't let anyone but natives wear it. So
right.
Tell me how you feel.
I know the thing about the cultural appropriation and my stance on it is that I let everyone know, out the gate, that I didn't begin this fashion line to become a rich designer or to, become famous. It was nothing like that. It was really it just kind of evolved, and it just manifested out of the teachings and the traditions and the lectures that, you know, my mother and my grandparents would give me. And I just felt like fashion was a really good way for me to make that mark out there and to impact as many people as I could, when it comes to the appropriation of our culture. And I didn't necessarily start out that way, like, this is my mission, I'm gonna stop appropriation. What really, it kind of evolved into the fact that I have a big mouth. And I'm just really like
I love
that.
that
I'm
you
just
do.
like, I'm one of these people who's like, what are you doing? Why are you wearing that? Like, it really would be easy for me to fall into what Hollywood and what the fashion industry has portrayed us as Native Americans, and to take what I know and then, you know, just fuel that fire of like misunderstanding. That would be so easy for me to do. However, it's not the honorable or respectable thing for me to do as a Native person, as a Hadza, a Dakota Sioux, and Assiniboine woman. You know, because at the end of the day, you know, you've got to sit with yourself. You've got to sit with your decisions and what you've done and your intentions. And I'd hate to sit with mine and not feel good about what I have done and accomplished. And like I said, if I'm able to educate people through my fashions about what cultural appropriation is, and about the fact that, you know, it's harmful. It is so harmful, not just Native Americans, but every culture, you know,
Yeah.
the Black culture, the Mexican culture. I have nieces who are half Ecuadorian, half Mexican, and so they get it from everywhere, every which way. And it's like,
Yeah.
people don't understand that cultural appropriation really is, like, literally physically harmful. It's why we have MIW.
I'm half Romani, and everybody thinks it's cool to be a gypsy. There's gypsy
Yep,
soul
yep.
t-shirts, and it's strapped on
Yep.
every single thing, and they don't realize that they're appropriating a culture when they're doing that.
Right. And there's people, you know, I've met two types of people really in all of this. And I've met the people who don't understand what cultural appropriation, they don't know they're doing it. But once they've been told and shown, you know, because I'll be honest with you, even I didn't understand what cultural appropriation is. How would I? My culture was being stolen by the government. My culture is being reclaimed. So growing up,
Your
how
culture
was I to
was
know?
stamped on every sports team in the United States, and
Right.
it was
So
terrible.
when we would find these teepee, I remember we had teepee lamps, you know, at these stores that these white people were selling. We were like, oh my God, it's a teepee! Wow, you know. But we didn't really realize that that person was appropriating us. They were taking what was our culture, and they were financially benefiting, and and a lot of times they weren't portraying it adequately and appropriately. And so there's those types of
It's
people
almost like a
who
parody.
they don't know doing it. But once they've been taught and shown, they're like, I get it. Now, how do I appreciate the culture? It becomes that. They want to appreciate, not appropriate. And then you have people who, they don't give two shits. You can tell them every which way that you're blue in the face, that they're appropriating your culture and why it's harmful. They don't care. They're making profit. So why would they care? You know, so I guess it's easy to drown out, you know, the morals and the ethics of people's, you know, concern when your bank account is constantly cha-chinging. I don't
There's
know.
no honor system anymore. People
Right.
don't live with a sense of honor or a sense of
Dignity.
moral restriction or any of that. They just it's the mighty dollar, you know.
Right.
And
The
it's
first
not
time
even
I
that.
went to-
Some people, I feel like some people just appropriate cultures as like almost a sense of power, a way of taking away something from those people, and a way of removing your identity from them, so that you blend, so that you don't stand out, so that you don't have anything that's special that's yours that you can cling to.
I love when I run across somebody who's appropriating our culture, and when I've called them out on it, well, the thing is, I'm honoring you. How are you honoring me? You know nothing about my tribe. you are assuming that every Native American is the same. We're not. We're different tribes. We may have some things in common. I'll tell you the one thing we've had in common is the damn struggle with the government. That's the one thing that connects all of us tribal people together, is the goddamn fight we've had with the government forever.
All of us.
But other than that, how are you honoring Native Americans when you don't understand the culture? And you can't sit there until you do, when Native Americans themselves are still reclaiming and relearning, and you know what I mean? So how is it that you're such an expert? It's insulting.
Right.
And so it just really it is. It really is. I remember the first time I did Atlantic City Fashion Week. You know, I had one young lady, I was getting ready, and she's like, "Do you have like feathers?" And I'm like, "Feathers for what?" And she was like headdresses. And I was like, "Honey, are you trying to get us both shot? What the hell? No, that's not." Like, no, I don't have headdresses, and you shouldn't either. Like,
And it's like, so how do you teach people not to be ignorant? Because that's really what it is.
I just tell them not to be ignorant. Like, this is, I count straight out. Like, because the thing is, if you're gonna pit, like, if you pussyfoot around somebody and be like, well, you really shouldn't be doing. No, if you run into me, I'm gonna tell you straight up, you look like a damn ass sitting there in a fake war bonnet and fringe and calling yourself somebody who's honoring the Native culture. I don't got time. God. I don't have time to be telling people.
Norma, you know what? You're absolutely right. Because do you know what was so offensive to me was when all the senators put on that kente cloth and took that picture in the Capitol. I thought, do you remember that picture? They all put on the kente cloths around their necks. And I thought that was the most offensive thing. Why is Nancy Pelosi walking around with some kente cloth on? Ma'am. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I understand it. I think that it is offensive that people want to walk around and think that they have to wear headdresses and Native things like that. It is offensive. Yeah. Because that's something from your culture as a some of respect and honor, and you're taking it as a joke.
Right. And some of it's not even actually from the culture. Some of it is just strictly from the way that it's been commercialized and bastardized by government.
Hollywood has been the biggest pain in Native Americans' asses. I'm say it, because they literally have put that image out there, and thankfully we're getting into an era that I see, maybe it's because of social media, that Native American actors are starting to take these spaces and to again show people like the perception you had of us is wrong. Oh yeah, if you watch I don't know if you guys have watched Rutherford Falls on Hulu. Has Native American actors. It's actually based on a Native American actress who she returns to the reservation after going and getting her education. She's trying to open a museum. All these struggles. It's so real. It's so real. And Res Dogs on FX. I tell you what, it's so refreshing to see.
I'm gonna look it up.
Americans, it's so refreshing to see national networks picking up shows that tell the true stories of these different Native Americans. And like I said, you can't generalize us. There's a lot of stuff you can generalize, like the way that we behave on the reservation, how we tease each other and how we joke. And Betty and I know that.
So, I mean, the only parallel truly that I can. Because let's be honest, I was raised as a privileged white woman. Mm-hmm. And the only parallel that I can draw to that is, privilege. I was poor. But, still I have the privilege of the things that I didn't have to deal with. Oh. Yeah. My son has autism. And whenever I see an actor who's non-autistic and neurotypical playing a role, it cuts into me, because I know that there are truly autistic actors that could fill those spaces,
and tell those stories. And the thing is, that's the goals. When I was a kid, it was like, oh my God, they're Indians and they're talking Sioux. And I remember my grandma, we went to the movie and she didn't have to read the captions because her first language was the Sioux language. And I was just like amazed to see all these. But at the time, I didn't realize this wasn't a story about Native Americans. It was a story about two white people who fell in love and just happened to be among the Native Americans. You know,
Right.
it wasn't
And
until
they
I
got
got
thrown in.
older that I had realized that, like, why is it the Native American story or the Native American actor is always standing behind someone who has a story that just happens to involve Native Americans? So that's one thing with me, is that now we have to start taking these spaces up. And for me as a Native, you know, designer, Native fashion designer, it's a little bit of a struggle, because I have to explain that I try to be true to my culture when it comes to how I make my garments, because traditionally everything we do means something. It wasn't because it looked cute or because it was fun. It was because it was symbolic to whatever, like gender or a role in the tribe or marriage or things like that. And so whenever I'm creating something for the public to wear, you know, because anyone can wear my contemporary stuff, I try to keep that in mind, you know, that there needs to be clarification as to where it all comes from. And if you're going to buy and purchase from a Native artist, that's fantastic, but be truly interested in what you're buying and knowing that story, because that's where you're really going to help. You know, if you purchase a pair of earrings, you know, and you go out, know the story behind those earrings, you know, because that's going to help educate someone else as to what it means and where it comes from, you know, things like that. And that's every culture. That's every culture. You should be that way if you're going to buy any type of cultural items, no matter what type of culture it is. So, yeah, so that's part of the whole, my whole thing with cultural appropriation is breaking that, you know, those stereotypes. And it's crazy because I find those stereotypes to be a lot more, I guess worse in cities, you know, in the cities and in, you know, areas that are further away from the reservations like mine. So when I go to like these Atlantic City Fashion Weeks and I go to these places, these cities, the Paris, you know, Paris Fashion Week, and, you know, they say, oh, Native American designer. And then they see my stuff and they're like, where's the war bonnets? Where's the fringe? I purposely don't use fringe for that fucking reason. So like, no.
Oh my god. Okay, Norma. Right. Thank you, mother. I love you. Oh my gosh. Okay, so look. So hang out. We're at oh my god, we're at 38. Oh my gosh. Our show is like flying by. So we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna bring in Jacinth, and Jacinth has some questions for you, Norma, and then we're gonna get into that How You Loving segment of the show. So we'll be right back on Behind the Vibes at the Dandelion. Yay!
She walk like she's on a mission. Everybody watching her move. Everybody paying attention. Mama ain't raised no fool. She's on fire. She's on fire. She's on fire. Yeah, 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 yeah. She's on fire.
We're international women with real bodies, and we have real issues. Women with Control helps you stay in control. It's the uplifting factor of the Norma Little, Norma Jiggle.
No wig, no jiggle.
Style is not about size, it's about attitude.
Welcome back. Okay, so we were just diving into our delicious cuisines right here. We're having like, what you get? You got?
I got rabbit pie.
Rabbit pie. I got a lamb, like shepherd's pie. It's absolutely delicious. So you guys should come down here at the Dandelion right here in Philly in Center City on 18th and 6th. It's delicious.
This jungle lion drink.
Jungle Lion drinks is the best.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, well, we are back and we are live here in Center City. And we're gonna bring it on back with our girl Norma. And then come on in, Jacinth. We're gonna let you dig into this conversation. And Norma, thank you so much for breaking down
cultural appropriation.
Thank you. Cultural appropriation. I did not want to say it wrong. Thank you for
I
breaking
said
that
it
down.
wrong enough for everybody.
Right, because I feel like last time on the show we didn't get a chance to really dive into that. So thank you for breaking that down, and thank you for explaining that so that people know, and when they see it, they can recognize it. Because I feel like all cultures are done that way, from the Asian culture, Black culture, right?
Oh yeah, any type of culture, basically. We've all been victims of the cultural appropriation. What I think people need to realize is that there's a difference between appropriation and appreciation for sure. And there are plenty of there's so much information out there that you're just being if you're just acting as if you don't know you're doing it at this point. So
Right, you're just pretending.
And I think it's so
Yeah.
important that we all communicate what the difference is between appreciating a culture and appropriating it, because there's so many gatekeepers that are keeping the education of those cultures from being spread to people and locked away, and keeping it in museums and keeping it on reservations. And it needs to be something that people see, appreciate, and understand, and aren't just, well, that's ours, so it goes in our box. Well, no, if you it's not your box, honey. You gotta open that thing, let everybody see it.
Well, girl, look, that'd be too much like critical race theory. You know how they feel about that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing was like,
right? You know that thing we don't teach our kids. They don't like that stuff. Okay, go ahead, Mom. Do you have a question for Norma?
No, I mean, I totally understand where she's coming from with the culture and inclusion, because I'm an immigrant. You know, my family and we're from Jamaica. I was born and raised. And when I first got here, it was a huge culture shock for me, because somebody would look at me without saying, hey, Wagwan, say Bumbaclot, say this, how you say that, da da da. It will make fun of my accent. I mean, now it's funny, but then as a child, I looked at it like, you know, you're teasing me. You're making fun of me. And for a while, I was afraid to talk. I would only talk in like the little, you know, only certain girls that I knew. But every time I would talk, especially if we had to participate in class, I was scared to read because my reading was off. Yeah,
and
I
that
would
was so
pronounce certain
sad
words.
because I mean you're so like you're unique and you're special, and you should have been proud of being having that, you know. And it should have been something you were proud to be. I know I walked in a room and I was Native, whether people thought I looked Native or not. I got questioned all the time, why don't you look honest? Because I'm not Asian. She looks Asian. She doesn't even look Native. So it's like, I get that all the time. And it's like, a lot of Natives do, you know, that stereotype. And I didn't care. I walked in and was like, I'm Native American, whether you like that or not. And let me, you know, show you like exactly. I know Betty was saying she grew up, you know, with different cultures. I was an Army brat growing up. And I lived among so many different races and whatnot. And I truly believe that is why I feel so comfortable with people. Like, I just want to get to know people and what's your background. And I try not to make assumptions of who someone is and where they come from. And that's the problem. People just make assumptions, and then they're just like all the stereotypes, all the bad things they've heard about people. It goes right into their head, and it's like, what are you doing? You don't even know this person. You
because I've known certain Asian.
The ignorance kicks in.
There's some stereotypes that I fit in because I'm Southern, and then there are some that are just ignorant. Like they assume that you're undereducated. They assume that you I don't know, pick your teeth with a toothpick. They assume all kinds of stuff. And what it does is it takes away from the beauty of the places that we come from. It takes away from the experiences that you have when you go to those places. It's like with Jacinth in Jamaica. Being ignorant about it takes away from your experience.
Absolutely.
No,
even I have a friend who's Philippines, and she gets mad when people think, oh, you're from China? Or you're from Japan? And it's like, some people everybody's saying that thing, all Asian people look alike.
That is so rude because they do not. That is so rude. Oh my God,
it's horrible. I get it from both sides. I get it from Natives too. Actually, I get Natives that will be like, "You're really Native," because I'm white passing. You know, so but it's
Yeah.
like I live in North Dakota
Wow.
for fuck's sake. There's like the sun's out like 3 days of the year, so it's like I'm not very dark.
You ain't gonna be brown, baby.
Our people,
Look, I'll
our
send you some
people
Josie
are
tanner,
we're
boo,
light.
right? I'll send you some tanner. We'll
Our
send you
people are
tanners.
light. You go closer to Canada, they get lighter. They get lighter.
Oh
So,
man, I know that's right.
but it's a constant struggle to educate people and yet do the things that you love. Like for me, making the fashions I want to make, that comes with an education. When I did Atlantic City, the producers invited me back because they wanted to do it in a way where they were like, you know what, we love your stuff, we totally get it. That's because we got to meet you, we got to understand what you're doing. We want our audience to feel that way too. So they were, really awesome in like saying, let's, if you can bring traditional into the show, let's highlight it. And they did. And I got good and bad feedback from a lot of people, less bad, which was good. But when I said I didn't dress people in traditional garments, that's when people are like, oh, she doesn't dress white people. It's like, first of all, no, honey, I don't
Well,
dress
no,
people
you
in
know,
my
well,
traditional garments.
well, no, you
I
know
won't
what that is?
apologize for it.
That's because they're not educated in it, and when you're
Right.
not educated in something, you blur up
Right.
the first thing that comes to your, your
That's a
mind.
big
So
deal to
that's lack of
get
education
somebody
and a little bit of
in our
ignorance.
garments. Yeah, it's a big deal. We're adopting you as family.
Yeah, I agree with
We
that.
are, and this isn't to say that we don't do it for non-natives, because I've seen plenty of non-natives be adopted. Hell, I think I've got a couple of brothers and sisters out there that are non-native. So it's like, but it's a big deal to us. Adoptions are a big deal, and part of that is wearing our traditional garment. And so I try to explain to the public, what I make contemporary, that's for you to support and buy and to learn more about. But the traditional side, I have no problem educating people on it, but I will not sell or dress people in those garments, because that's for us. And
Amen.
that's ours. It's ours, and you have to keep something sacred. You
And
just do.
Norma,
And you
it
have
is
to
nothing,
respect people.
and it's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
there's
It's
not.
okay to
And I
say
tell
no.
those people all the time.
It's
Yeah.
okay to say no. Yes, it's
Yeah,
okay
and
to
I
say
tell
By
people all the
making the
time, there's
contemporary
nothing
garments
wrong
transparent.
with putting your foot down and saying, I'm going to protect what we do have, because look at
That's
how
your
much we've
culture.
already had
That's
stolen. And I hate when people say, oh, the Native Americans lost their culture. No, we didn't lose a damn thing. We had it stolen. That's what we had it stolen. And so now we're gaining it back with what little bit, like my grandparents. This didn't happen centuries ago. My mom and dad, my mom's parents were in a boarding school that is now under investigation and having, like they're finding bodies, that the small children that they killed.
Like
I think
hundreds of bodies.
Canada is over 10,000 bodies they've
What?
found in these residential boarding schools.
Right.
The U.S. just issued a report. Deb Haaland, the Secretary of Interior Secretary, she released a report. They are now investigating all of these boarding schools, which ran until the 60s. The 60s. And the Canada actually still has some in operation. And so
And
I
they
think
took the
the
children
first
in
one,
and they dressed
they
them
started
in
in Oklahoma.
clothes, Saxon clothes,
Yep.
and they
Yep.
cut their hair off and they took all of
It
their
was
culture.
the
and
boarding
essentially just
schools
said,
were not school. It was a form of genocide. My grandparents had their hair cut. My grandmother would have clothespins put on her tongue for
Oh my
speaking our language.
God.
They were trying to turn us into white people who believed in Jesus, who believed
Oh
in the
my
Bible.
God.
And my grandmother, of course, knew. I never understood the whole thing until now that I'm an adult. But looking back, my grandma had a hard time talking about a lot of things, and now I know why. Because these places were traumatizing, and we now have survivors that come out of that came out of those boarding schools, that seen these babies, these kids being taken and being killed. They would tell the parents,
Wow.
oh, they ran away.
Oh my gosh.
So when I say
Or
that
blame it
the
on sex
government
trafficking if it
has,
happens
I
today.
drank my line.
oh yeah, no, the government has been trying to wipe us out. They started with in native wars, then they went on to smallpox, then they went on to reservations, and then from there they went on to putting us in boarding schools and not allowing the parents to be there.
Wow.
They would cut our hair. They would punish us if they found that we had
Give them
any of
different
our
names.
regalia. They would punish us. that's why our regalia is so important, so sacred to us. We literally died to keep it. And you're going to sit here and tell me I should put it up for sale? Like, it just really is. Yeah, there's a whole backstory. And it's crazy because here I am making these fashions, but I'm like, let me tell you where this came from. And
Wow.
I'm like, if you guys can sit and listen to what I have to say, then more power to you. But most
Girl,
people
you
don't
are
want to hear it.
amazing. I mean,
They don't want to hear
you
it.
are
They
amazing.
don't want to hear it.
You're amazing. Well, look, we
Thank
want to
you.
hear it. And,
Wow.
and
Yeah,
we
you
love
do.
the fact that
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
shared your
no,
story.
because I didn't know that. So thank you for sharing that new
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
information.
It just got released. That report just released by Deb Hall, and I believe
That's horrible.
Betty, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, wasn't it? They just now released that report here in the States. They've been looking in Canada already. They've been finding bodies since last year. It started about this time last year.
That's
First
crazy.
Nations people have been finding that it's over 10,000 children that they have found at these different boarding schools.
I know that they turned
we're
one
in the
school
States.
over. They turned one school over in Virginia and found, I think it was 174 children's bones and remains.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
that's-
Okay, you guys.
it's horrible.
So.
So,
Okay.
but the point is that Norma's not going to sell you
Right.
their regalia because they died to keep it, and they died
And
a lot.
y'all
There's a lot
leave-
of-
Kudos
Y'all
for
leave
you for
her the hell
standing
alone
up for that.
about that.
So you let her
That's
keep
powerful.
what.
That's powerful.
Yeah,
That's
and
powerful.
the thing is, I don't get a whole lot of pushback about that part of it. And when I started this fashion line, I was just making fashion for, my fellow natives, I guess, because I never imagined that anyone that wasn't native would want to wear what I'm making. And it's crazy because I have so many non-native supporters. And what I love about every one of them is that they take the time to try to learn what it is I'm putting out there. And I tell this to my supporters, I tell this to my customers. Try to learn what it is you're purchasing. Try to learn that story, because you're going to help the Native community, not just by buying something from us, but knowing what it is you're buying and being able to share that should somebody ask you what it is you're wearing. So that's a big thing, and we all need to educate one another. Who knows? I know Mac, you were talking about the shooting that happened, and I tell you what, I just can't wrap my mind around how we get to those points. I can't.
It's heartless.
I can't. And then so, health, or whether it's, just pure hate, I guess we'll never really truly know in this world, but man, it scares me. And I have children, and my children are not white passing. My husband is not white passing. They get the stares, they get the mean looks, they get the, the questions, what are you doing here? Things like that. And then here's me, who looks like a big white woman, and I'm like,
What race is your
doing
husband
here?
and your kid?
My husband comes from the Dene, the Navajo. We don't really use the word Navajo because it's actually derogatory to some of the Dene people. And then he's also from the Lakota Sioux of the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation here in North Dakota. And then my kids as well are Standing Rock Sioux, and they're Dene. And then also Dakota Sioux. I'm from the Dakota Sioux tribe, which is Montana. So Sioux are, and even that, we're not one big tribe. We're different, we're different bands.
Yeah,
We're
I had a
different
gentleman
bands,
who was South Dakota, Lakota.
Yeah.
Right.
Sioux, and he told me, he said he was just like, he's like the Sioux. He's like the Sioux race. He was like, it's as diverse as the world itself. Was the way that he described it, and I think he's right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's
That's
huge.
amazing.
And then there's my Hidatsa side, which I live in North Dakota with my Hidatsa people. We were actually, where I live, there's 3 different tribes that live on this reservation, and we have nothing to do with one another culturally. We're actually so vastly different that it's hard for us to combine do our cultural stuff under one government. And the reason why is because the government was here putting us on reservations, and they were like, hey, you guys are here, come on over, we're going to put you guys here. And since you guys are here, you guys can be here too. So because to the white man, we were all one big tribe. We were all the same.
Yeah.
So but I definitely look like my Hidatsa side. We're light light complected. So,
Well, if people
Wow.
actually studied human culture itself, they would learn that the closer that a culture is to the equator, the darker their skin
Yeah, they
is,
would be, yeah.
because melanin retracts sunlight and
Exactly.
also
Protect them.
keeps you protected from it. So the farther away from the equator that those natural
Will
born
kill
races
you. Wow.
were, the lighter
Yeah.
their skin was. So
Right.
technically, race is just a protective thing that
Yeah.
culture is the thing that defines us. I
Absolutely.
think that people they're so quick to think, oh, race, and it's not. Race has nothing to do with it. That's the
No.
level of melanin in your skin. That's the where you needed to be on the planet to be protected. But
Yeah.
your culture is what defines you. Your
Mhm.
culture is what you learn
Exactly.
from.
Amen.
And
Yes, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
My
we're
best
all
friend,
one human
my
race, but
Yeah.
we have beautiful culture.
I mean, at the end of the day, and that's exactly what this country is. America is a bunch of tribes. We're built by different tribes, and it's all tribes together. And it's just unfortunate when the tribes can't get along, when
I
one
know.
tribe
Yeah.
is the boss, and then see everybody else is not, is not considered a first class human being or citizen. So
Yeah.
yes, that's what America is. America is tribes. We're a bunch
And
of
I
tribes.
wish I would have had this confidence when I was younger, because when I was younger too, even though I had my mother telling me constantly, like, you're native, like, don't be letting people tell you you're this or that, whatever. I wish I would have had this confidence then, because when I was younger, because I fell into that too, where I was tanning, I dyed my hair black because I was trying to I
Fit
was
in.
actually
to fit in,
people
right?
asking
I
me
bet you
why
were
I
cute
didn't
with
look
black
native.
hair. I might be partial.
Now I dye it black because it's going gray. That's it.
Well,
I'm
Welcome to
trying
my
to look
work,
like
girl.
nothing.
I'm black because I'm black.
a lot of people assume
I'm a
that
gray girl.
I got my black hair from my native background, and it's actually not. This is actually from the Jewish part of my family, where my mom is. 'Cause
Right.
They have
Oh, wow.
black hair.
Really dark hair.
Yep.
Right.
See?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
No,
Well, okay.
That's,
So
yeah, it's really
I
different.
didn't realize. So I didn't realize that we killed the whole hour.
Oh yeah, I know. These are some really good topics, and I could talk forever.
I mean, but you know what? In all honesty,
But no,
when
we needed to hear that though.
Yeah,
Because
we needed to hear that. So just said, look, boo, we gonna take How You Lovin' into June with that, and we'll bring it back with the fellas, girl, because I mean, you don't know what you said, which is very important, and thank you so much for saying it, because that is something that needs to be taught, and that needs to be taught in schools. This all this information just doesn't need to be shared here. That needs to be taught in schools so people know the history of this country, good and bad. And that's how a country heals, and that's how we can start to heal through all this craziness.
Well,
But
I sure
Norma, please.
appreciate you having me here. I sure appreciate your show. The topics you guys bring up, the realness.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. We got to be real. If we can't be real, we're not going to progress. It's just what it is.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
I'm happy to be here. I really appreciate all of you guys, and what you have to say.
No, I'm glad that you said that, because sometimes we're like, oh my God, is this too heavy to talk about on the show? But like you're saying, that we have to talk about these topics. We have to talk about what's going on in the world, current events. It
doesn't have to be in a hateful way. It doesn't have to be in a mean, hateful way. It just, we can share each other.
You gotta share.
It's not in front of the vibes. It's what's behind the vibes.
It's behind the vibes. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jacinth. Thank you, Mac. Thank you, Norma. Oh my gosh, Norma, drop your social media really quickly. Thank you, Better. Oh, and we're gonna close out the show because we got 30 seconds.
Redberry Woman on Facebook and Instagram. You guys can't miss me.
Awesome. Thank you. And we're going to repost the show so people can hear that. Thank you so much. Bobby, can you clear the stage for me, darling? We're about to close this out. I got 10 seconds left. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in tonight. Thank you to my amazing team. Betty just sent Meg. Thank you, Norma. You guys, please follow her at Red Betty Women. And thank you so much, Bobby. You're amazing. And remember, you guys, if your tribe works, the vibe works. Have a great day. Have a great night. And thank you again to the Dandelion. And we will see you guys next month in June for Men Appreciation Month. Have a good night. Bye.